Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Souders, Slunger Cat Outdoors, back with you again this afternoon. And my hat's crooked. I fixed the hat. But I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Right off the bat, I want to make sure, if you guys can see this right here, I am doing everything I possibly can do, or learn, not really do, but learn how to make these videos better. You can hear them better. You can, all that jazz. So right off the bat, I want to make sure that everybody knows I take everybody's advice whenever it comes to this kind of stuff to try to make these things better for you all to learn. So if you guys can hear this, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how it sounds, how it looks. Unfortunately, we are back in the garage. Wherever you're at in your neck of the woods, in my neck of the woods, it's getting dark already. But I am going to be trying to get a light pole made so that we can do these things, during this fall time of the year, which is what I consider to be, the second best time of the year. The first time of the year for me, is May. But let's get started tonight. Had a lot of questions about things, and I want to cover a lot of information tonight. First off, if you are new to the channel, I can't thank you enough for joining Slunger Cat Outdoors and listening to what we got to say here. I got some, hopefully, I'm gonna say hopefully, if everything works out good, I got like a surprise little thing for you guys tomorrow. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. If all goes well, I'm gonna try to go live tomorrow from another state that is, I'll give you a hint, it's about 8 hours away from Ohio, Southern Ohio. So make sure, if everything works out great, I can't promise nothing, but we're going to try to do a little special live show for you guys tomorrow, and then we're going to do some YouTube stuff while I'm there. But anyway, for everybody that's watching, thanks. I can't thank you enough. If you're new to the channel, once again, thank you guys for subscribing. You guys rock. You guys are making what I do good. All right, we froze up there for a second. Hope I didn't lose nobody. So let me know how things are going as we get started here. All right, looks like we're back in it. So anyway, I have been getting a lot of questions on fall time. This time of the year, what's going on with the fish? What can I expect? Any tips, tricks, things like that to catch more fish during this time of year, okay? And so that's kind of what we're going to cover tonight. Make sure, if you guys got questions as we go through this, to hit them up in the comment section. As it's scrolling through, I like to try to read them. So make sure and put at Chris Souders so that it will pop up for me as we're watching this. So yeah, if you got any questions, make sure you leave them there so we can kind of go from there. So to start with, fall time. Fall time of the year. We're talking right now. Fish are gonna, normally. Now, this is not what I consider a normal year with low current, hot weather, later hot weather, but it's starting to cool off. It's starting to get that time of year. Those fish want to eat. They're wanting to feed up. If we could just get a little bit of current here in the Ohio River, it would be phenomenal. I would really appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of y'all, everybody else would appreciate it too. But, this time of year in fall, I'm going to give some tips on what I like to do to kind of increase my odds, okay? So to start with, where are we fishing? In the summertime, I preach a lot and talk a lot about, fishing isolated structure, the heaviest, nastiest structure you can find. Well, and then in the springtime, we talk about fishing high probability areas or high bait areas. And that's kind of what we're going to be going back to now. We got to think about, what these fish are wanting. It's coming the time of year where flatheads are wanting to feed up and kind of go to bed for the winter. Um, so, we got to put our mindset into that mindset, okay? So we want to start transitioning. We want to still hit that isolated cover and isolated brush, rock piles, humps, structure, contours, things like that. But we want to start concentrating on those high traffic areas. Ledges are going to be good again this time of year. Creek mouths, places that hold lots of bait. And for instance, there's a lot of friends that I have on Facebook that are bank fishermen that love to fish from the shore. They fish dams and just public access areas, things like that. And they're catching fish. They're starting to catch more and more fish now as fall continues to go on and on. And that is a good sign, a good trigger, a good thing for everybody to watch and keep their senses to is that those fish are coming up there and they're feeding, and if those guys are catching more fish, then odds are those fish are starting to move more. Okay, so we want to keep that in our mind too. So any place that and I know this is a bad example with this time of year with bait everywhere in the Ohio River, or well, I'm going to say my part of the world. If in your part of the world you guys have as much bait in the water this year, an extremely enormous amount, more than what you do in the past, leave it in the comments. Let us know, because on the Ohio River where I'm from, there is millions of shad this size here, and there is thousands of skipjack this size. I mean, it makes me happy to see that kind of bait. Yeah, if you got the same problem we got around here with the bait, it's not really a problem. It's a blessing for future. But leave that in the comments. Let me know. So, hey, what's up, Petey? Thanks for joining tonight, buddy. So, as we move forward through this, we want to understand, once again, what those fish are doing. Those fish are feeding up, for the winter, and they're moving to the areas, that they want to call their wintering time hole, or areas that they want to be at for the winter. So, as those fish, we move and migrate, we want to try to keep with them and move and migrate as well. They will be coming more off of that isolated structure, and once again going to those high bait areas. Once again, if you guys are just joining the show tonight, we're talking about kind of fall flatheads. If you got any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. Put it at Chris Souders, and that will pop up a little bit better for me so I can read it as we go on. So another thing that we want to think about, when we're talking about fall time fishing or fall time catfishing, we kind of talk, we're kind of talking about flatheads a little bit, but this time of year can be phenomenal blue cat fishing too. So if you live in a good populated blue cat area and you want to get on some big fish, now can be a good time as that water continues to cool down. But let's talk about, bait. We was talking about how much bait there is in the water column and the water systems right now. But what do we use? What do we use for bait? A lot of you guys know I love gizzard shad. I love to put them in a bait tank, keep them alive, and use live gizzard shad. And this is one of those times where I see a lot of live gizzard shad really shine. And I'm talking big gizzard shad, 8, 9, 10-inch gizzard shad, can really shine this time of year. Sometimes those big flatheads and big blues, really want a big meal. Now, there will be times where, you're going to have to cut those down to smaller pieces, and that's something that you will, have to play with a little bit. Now I seen a question that scrolled by. I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but he said that small baits, since that is what is in the water right now. So I want to touch on that a little bit. A lot of people talk about match the hatch, and I believe in matching the hatch to a certain extent. But I also believe that you have to let them tell you what you want. For instance, me personally, I try not to catch small gizzard shad. I prefer, if I want a small piece of bait, I prefer to take a big gizzard shad and cut it up into smaller chunks. It's going to have more oil, more flavor, more scent than what those little ones will. Now, I'm not saying that you can't catch fish on those little gizzard shad, because I've seen it. I've seen it 100 times that somebody catch them in a net, put half a dozen on a hook, throw it out there, and boom, catch good fish on it. So it can happen. I just prefer not to do that. So whenever I think of matching the hatch, as far as bait goes, I look at it throughout the year. Like, say, when gizzard shad really come out of off winter and they start dying, I match that. In the springtime, when the skipjack are running, I try to match that. And I know that doesn't really mean match the hatch, but what I look at it is it's matching the primary bait source at that time. If that is millions of little baby shad, then maybe I still want to use shad, but cut it up into smaller pieces. If you got a bunch of baby skipjack, maybe skipjack would be the key, but smaller pieces, or fillets, or something that's going to mimic the same size as that small skipjack, but put off more scent than that small piece of bait that really doesn't have a bunch of oil or blood or scent flavor to it at that time. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys as far as that goes. So hope everybody is doing great this afternoon. Make sure that if you like this information we're putting out, hit that thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you like it. I seen a question. I seen something popped up there. Something about somebody always using big bait and how it can sometimes hurt them at times, and that's absolutely correct. There's been times I've caught a lot of big fish on small pieces of bait and a lot of small fish on big pieces of bait. I mean, everybody's got a story where they catch a 2-pound flathead on a live gizzard shad that's 6 inches, or a bluegill the size of your hand. I know people, myself included, that have caught flatheads that weren't even hooked. And if you guys are one of them, leave it in the comments, because those are funny stories. When a fish comes to the top and you pull the bluegill out of its mouth and it's not even hooked. Those are great stories. But so to me, the next thing we want to talk about in fall time catfishing is our gear. Okay. Now, current plays a big key to me in the higher river on how I fish, what kind of gear. Hold that thought. Noah says, what if the fish keeps stealing the bait off your hook? So give me a little bit more information, Noah. Is it, are you using big pieces of bait, small pieces of bait? Are you using, what kind of bait are you using? Just a little, elaborate on that just a little bit more. All right, so let's get back to talking about gear. A big piece of cut shad. If you have a fish that's stealing your bait, you've got a big piece of cut shad, and something keeps stealing your bait, I'm going to guess that it may not be a catfish. I don't know what else you might have in your water, whether it be a gar or something of that nature, or maybe a small fish. It's possible that it could be a smaller fish coming up, messing around with it. You know, if you have a lot of bites where the pole is just bouncing, odds are those are smaller fish, or you know, like a gar will swim off with it, and he'll have a hold of it and he'll pull it off the hook. That could be that as well. A lot of factors play into that. A couple of things you could do is decrease your bait size a little bit. Also add a stinger hook. If you're using a big piece of bait, sometimes by adding a stinger hook, will help things out a lot. They'll come up, they'll grab the back of it, where they normally wouldn't get the front hook, but by having that stinger hook in, they'll still get hooked. Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about stinger hook, let me know here, and we can. I got everything laid out here in front of me, so we can kind of look at it a little bit. So when we talk about gear, I like to in the summertime, I switched to a medium heavy action rod. Okay, those fish flatheads, we're kind of talking about flatheads here a little bit, because I know that's a lot of the questions I've been getting here lately. So in the summertime, when the current goes down, you don't have a whole bunch of current, fish aren't really aggressive. I like to go to a medium heavy rod, and it doesn't have as much backbone, and they don't feel it nearly as much. So it kind of lets them pull it down more, lets them get the bait more and the hook more before they turn and take off, and less of a chance of them spitting the hook because they feel the bait. Okay, so we're going to kind of continue that in the fall, because they're still they're hungry, but they're not like stupidly hungry. Okay, where they can still feel things. They will absolutely spit the hook, if they feel something out of the ordinary. So kind of medium heavy rod until you have to go to a heavy rod. Okay. Now, let's take a look at. There's a couple rigs that you guys know I like a lot, and this is the double hook Kentucky rig. Okay. So this is one of my favorites. For summertime, for really any time of the year, this is one of my favorites. Now I don't have the little sinker snap on it. I just got a loop tied right there for right now, but you guys can see that's the dropper loop that the sinker would go on right there. And then 7/0 Diachi, D85, we got about 2 foot of line in between, another dropper loop to another Diachi, and then our main barrel swivel up to our main line. Okay, now that's the double hook Kentucky rig. I got some videos on that about how to tie it. I like this this setup for this time of year, and for just about any time of the year, because of how versatile it is. You can different baits, different depths, things like that. So I really like that style. Now, in the summertime, we use a sinker slide, regular sinker slide style setup. And, I'm going to continue that through the fall. Okay. And that's just a regular sinker slide that is a Team Catfish yellow stopper, just to kind of protect the knot, I use a lot of heavy weight, so that kind of helps protect it. And then we'll put the barrel swivel on, and I get a lot of questions on what kind of knots I use. Now I'm a pretty basic person, so I just prefer a like it's like a double clinch knot or improved clinch knot. But put it through the eye, spin it 7 times. And then I'll take the tag, run it through the loop, and then I'll take the tag piece and back through and slide it down. Now, you know, so that's that. And then for my leader, I use 80-pound Andy Monster. So let's cut a little piece off that. Well, and I heard somebody talk about a stinger hook as well. So I'm gonna cut it a little bit long. It's probably about 4 foot or so. Okay, now I'm gonna run right through the eye, and you can do this, you know, any way that you feel comfortable as far as snelling a hook. Okay. Now, me personally, I like just a no-knot snell. You know, at times it will come loose on you. I've never lost a fish because of it. I've never had one come loose. You know, as long as it's got pressure on it, it won't come loose. But it has come loose in a bag. You know, like I have them stored in a bag. So I'll wrap it. I'm gonna wrap it clockwise around the shank of the hook 7 times. And I'm gonna grab the tag end and go from the back to the front. Okay, now here's your first one. Now, if you was just doing a regular piece of leader line, that would be it. Then you would just tie it to your main swivel and you would be done. But if we were going to use a big piece of bait or we want to have a stinger hook, then we would just slide our next hook on, and we're going to put the line through the back from the back to the front of that hook. Okay, and I like to keep mine, you know, about 6 inches apart, and I like to make sure that the line is laying flat on the back of the shank of the hook there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wrap it 7 times. And then I'm going to take the end of it from the back to the front. Okay. And now you got your front hook right here, and then you got your stinger hook. Okay. And what's going to happen is I'll use my hand as, you know, kind of an idea to give you an idea of what you want to do. So this being the head, you would put your hook through like that, and then get this around here, and then you would come down, just kind of like if anybody has ever seen somebody, you know, putting hooks in a worm. You would hook that bait in a way that that hook would lay flat, just like that. Okay, and that bottom stinger hook would be towards the back of the bait, and then you'd have your front hook up towards the front. And if they come up there and grab the bait but did not get it up high enough to get the front hook, you're still going to get them with the back hook. But if they grab both, you're liable to have them hooked with both, okay, or just the front. And then we're just going to tie that to our main line, and we're ready to go. You can, you know, with that, this time of year, I really like to put, you know, some sort of rattle on, whether it be like, you know, just the regular hooker's terminal tackle, or there's several different companies that make these. Whisker Seeker makes them. Several different places make them. I like those, and I also like the Demon Dragons as well. You can tie those in line. You know, every time that bait flips and moves, it's going to make noise. I, for one, believe that noise is going to attract fish. So I like to I like to use them for that. So while I was tying that up, I seen several questions pop through. I don't remember all of them. So if you guys, if I have not answered questions that you guys may have had, make sure that you're asking them. Ask them again, I guess you could say, because I didn't see them, or I did see them, but can't remember. Go ahead and tie this on there. And this is going to be, different lengths. Me personally, I like to keep mine about 18 to 20 inches. And then I'm just going to do the same improved or double clinch or improved clinch or whatever, kind of whatever it's called. All right, PD. PD asked a good question. So PD, okay, so a couple different places. For me, if I'm going to add a line rattle, a couple different places. If I want to put it on the main line, then I'll put a bead on first. And then I will put a line rattle, okay? And I like that, as well. Or there's times where I will take and if I just want to add some extra noise or something, or maybe I'm dragging baits and I'll put some extra noise. I'll put it in between my sinker stop and my swivel. Okay, so that's another place that you can put them, just to add noise for whatever you want to, whatever you're doing. And even if I put them, so even if I put that rattle there, I will also sometimes go ahead and tie a demon dragon in line as well. No, PD. Now PD asked if I thought it was bad that he put two, and what I'm guessing is that you'll put one on, and now if I was to do it, I would put maybe put another bead on. Now, something like that. Those are gonna spin. They're gonna bump into each other. That fish is gonna make a bunch of noise with those, and I don't think that's bad at all. I think that there might be times where they don't want noise, but I also think there's times where the more noise the better. To be honest with you. Somebody asked, do I ever drag this double hook rig with like a bigger float in line? Yes, absolutely. Go down to Alabama, Tennessee River, places like that. I will definitely put a big float, and then float it or drag it. I'll even do that while anchored. Put a big float on it, and while I'm sitting there anchored, let it float up a little bit higher in the water column. Seen another question. Okay, I'm not sure who asked that question about the cold front, but I will get to that next. That is a very, very good question. And actually, it's like it could be a whole segment on its own about cold fronts and what to do with leader sizes. And I may use that for an upcoming show because that is a very good question. Somebody asked what my favorite collar is. So I like a couple. Obviously, the Slender Cat edition, is my favorite. Those are the collars that I really like. But I also like But I also like the Muddy River and the High Fins Blue. Those, I really like those three collars right there. Okay. Um, all right, bunch of questions flying by. So if I'm missing some, I'll make sure. This is what I love about it. Um, if you guys have any ideas for future shows, make sure you're leaving them in the comments as well, because I do go back. Some days it takes me a little bit longer, but I do go back and answer questions. But one question that somebody asked, and I'm going to use this for a future show, is they made the comment that uh, all the flatheads that they caught Saturday were covered in mud. And they was asking, do I shorten my leaders or lengthen my leaders to suit that condition? Simple. If they're closer to the bottom or if they're deeper in the mud, your bait needs to be there as well. Okay. And I think that is could be a great segment for a show in the future. So I'm going to write that down on my notes and make sure we do that one, because that is something that I think a lot of people overlook while they're out fishing, is their leader length, and letting the fish once again tell them what they want. So for tonight, we're going to cut it off right there. I want to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully you guys have got some good information out of tonight. We covered a lot of stuff. I could keep talking for hours, but I want to make sure to cover what you guys are wanting. So as always, thank everybody for watching. We'll be back out, hopefully next week, crossing my fingers, I'll have some sort of light thing set up and I can get back out on the water. But until then, hope everybody has a great week. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Remember, to make sure and keep an eye on Facebook and the YouTube channel, because it's possible we have some good, like a little surprise for you tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night, Thursday, something like that. So till then, thank everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you guys on the water. God bless.